Hello, North Central Washington, and welcome to Networked. My name is Jenny Rojanasatian, and today I am so excited to have two special guests from the North Central Education Service District to talk about their work they're doing and technology to help educators, students, and our community at large. Education is something that's really important to us at NCW Tech Alliance, specifically STEM education. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. But it's the application of STEM education into project-based learning and career-based experiences that are helping prepare our youth for the future workforce that our community needs. And a huge partner in that work is our North Central Education Service District. Whether you're an educator or a business or a community member, stay tuned. I'll be right back with my two guests. Well, welcome to Networked. I am so excited to be on air today with two special guests from the North Central Education Service District, Pete Phillips and Stefan Troutman. Mm-hmm. Did I say that right?
You did, nailed it.
For some reason, I can't nail your name this morning, and I apologize for that. The name was Rojanasatian. I should get somehow better at pronunciation. It's well, welcome to the show, gentlemen. So glad to have you here. Pete, I think I'll start with you. You're a past guest here on the show, back when we were Guada TV.
Yep.
But it's been a few years.
Yeah.
So let's introduce yourself and a little bit of what you do at the ESD before we talk about the scope of work at the ESD.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Educational Service District, there are 9 ESDs, we call them, 9 geographically broken up in the state. We serve the 4-county region, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanagan counties. There are 29 school districts, about 4,000 teachers in that region, and we provide services across the board for anything a school district needs. So technology is what we're talking about today, but we do everything. Nurses, business office, special ed, migrant. There is a department at the ESD that's providing support to our school districts from our office here in Wenatchee. So my umbrella covers technology, covers educational technology, instructional technology. Also have my hands into STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as other things that happen across the instructional spectrum within a classroom. So hardware, IT, the network side of things, I have my hands in all of those as well.
And Stefan, what for you? What is your role at the ESD? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my hands are in far fewer things
than Pete. More specialized.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Pete mentioned educational technology, and that's my world. So people hear EdTech, typically in the education realm, and they think like I can go fix their Chromebook, but really I tell people to focus on that education side of things. So the best way to sum up my job is I support teachers in implementing technology to make authentic learning experiences for students and to really maximize student engagement in the classroom.
Technology is such a broad topic, which is part of the reason the Tech Alliance exists. We're here to foster, promote educational resources about technology. You're right. I think when people think technology in schools, they think of the IT help support, which is one important component of what the ESD does, right? Doing some hands-on work to ensure technology's functioning. But let's dive deeper into that supportive help for educators, because it's our educators who are really making that impact every day with their 30 to 100 plus students.
Yeah, and like big shout out to all the IT people out there, because it doesn't work without them, right? That's the backbone, and that's there. And the tricky part about my job is teachers didn't go through pre-service programs trained on how to use technology in the classroom effectively, because the last thing we want is our kids just sitting rotely in front of computers and just like not doing anything all day. And so it's really riding that line of trying to help teachers blend what they know, what they're really, really good at, with just this brave new frontier that we were all thrust into about 2 years ago. So yeah, it's really just about really maximizing engagement and leveraging appropriate tech tools to be able to do that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, our educators have a lot on their plates. They're an educator, they're kind of part social worker, they're looking at the whole health, they do so much to help youth. And you're right, they went to school to be an educator and not necessarily be the go-to on technology, which is rapidly changing in the classroom.
I think that's one of the biggest issues that we face, is that it changes all the time. So not only do we try to keep them up to pace to learn new tools and to new engagement strategies and the great work that Stefan's doing, but it changes every year. And so it doesn't matter how old a teacher is, there's something new to learn. And we always hear in the educational community adding one more thing on. And that's so true, but it's part of the job, to be able to adapt and implement new technology as it comes out.
What are some of the things that you've seen broadly change the last couple of years? I think to me what pops to mind is the one-to-one device, right? And for our viewers watching today, they may not know what that means. Pete, can you talk a little bit about one-to-one devices and how that's, 5 years ago, schools weren't one-to-one.
Right. So most everyone can remember when they were in school, they had a computer lab. And you went to this room that had 30 machines in it. Everything was identical, and the teacher instructed and kids did the work. One-to-one is now putting a device in the hands of each student full time. So a true one-to-one definition would be a device, whether that's a Chromebook or a Windows or a Mac or some sort of tablet or even just a phone. They have their own device that they carry around all day to every period in the day. They get to take it home at night. They can do their homework anywhere, any place, and anytime. So it's really opened up the place and the time that learning happens in our schools.
And it creates some accessibility, because there's a lot of youth who are really fortunate that have technology at home, but we know that there's some major gaps too, with families not having access to technology tools. And so one-to-one is, I think, really essential in kind of breaking down those barriers, giving an equal playing field for kids to get their work done, right?
Yeah, it really does create that common barrier for a lot of students, because you said it, for a long time, some students had technology at home, and if there were some assignments, they could do further research, they could dig a little bit deeper. And for some of our, especially more rural communities, they didn't always have that access. So those one-to-one programs really level the playing field for all of our students, because we can think of technology and access to online information really as a basic human right or utility, because that's the way our world is moving, is everybody having access to all of the world's information all the time.
I know today we're not going to go heavily into Wi-Fi or broadband, but that's been a big conversation of like access to be able to get connected, to get online, is a basic utility need of families. They can't access education, telehealth, financial resources, or remote work or school without connectivity.
Yeah, you're right. That infrastructure, as good as we have it in our county and in all 4 of our counties, it doesn't matter what city you're in, whether you're in Wenatchee or you're in Orondo or Quincy or up in Tonasket. There's pockets that have it, and there's big pockets that don't have it. When we get outside of those city limits and up into the canyons, there is no opportunity for broadband internet in a lot of those houses.
And schools have been really creative in trying to find solutions, right? Setting up schools themselves as Wi-Fi spots. I know our libraries, NCW Libraries, has been a hub for connectivity, and definitely something, like I said, another episode to go into, because it's such a big topic. Can you dive a little bit into the EdTech best practices? So how are educators learning how to integrate that tech in this new world where every student has a device and they're changing the style in which they teach and do homework, etc.?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit before. The last thing we want is our students sitting in front of a computer just passively engaging in information. Yeah. We hear a lot from concerned parents or community members about this idea of too much screen time. And one of the main points of my job, and one of the main messages I try to get across to teachers and community members, is that screen time isn't all created equal. There's a difference between passively and sitting and watching a YouTube video versus actively engaging in some learning experiences. And so that really is the foundation of my work, is how do we move away from just direct consumption and passive learning to active engagement and higher level thinking. And so there's a lot of tools that we can leverage to do that. But I also like to tell teachers that tech is just the tool. Like I don't pick up a hammer and say, okay, what can I build? I think of what I want to build, and then I go and find the right tools. You can think of EdTech that same way, finding the right tool for the right type of learning.
Well, and we live in a digital economy. So the reality is our youth are going to go through our school systems into either technical training, right into work, or into a 4-year path. But in every scenario, technology is being deployed in the workplace. So those are really the skills they need to be set up for success. And that's the ultimate goal behind education, right? We're preparing kids for their futures out there. Let's chat a little bit further before we have to head to our next commercial break about some of the educational opportunities. So the ESD serves 29 school districts. That's a wide region. Educators, how do they get involved? Like if an educator's watching right now and they want to attend a class or a program, where do they find out about this information? What are some of the resources?
Yeah, great question. Our website is probably the number one place that we go to at the NCESD.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's really the bulk of the service that we provide is training our teachers. We do, ESD employees are out in the districts doing training on site in the classrooms, day trainings, evening trainings. We do a lot online, virtual, so educators can attend after they're done in the classroom. They can attend at night, but we have a full package for every type of professional development needed, and it's all listed on our website. Super easy to find at ncesd.org.
And professional development is something the state, from my understanding, requires our educators to continuously be learning themselves. But the ESD is really kind of cutting edge with the professional programming you're providing in STEM and technology. It's really exciting to see what you offer to educators.
Yeah, our STEM team, which Stefan is a part of, is on the cutting edge, like you said. Our computer science team is developing training and working with districts to help implement that. We talked about one-to-one on the IT side. I think the professional development around IT has been pushing and helping our school districts get to that spot of putting the tools, the right tools, in the teacher's hands and then in the kids' hands.
All right. Well, and there's also a way that you're involving business, which I'd like to touch on in the next episode, or in the next segment, I should say. But we do have to head to a short commercial break. We'll be right back. We are back in the NCW Life Studio. I've been talking with Pete and Stefan from NCESD. Really robust discussion. If you missed the first segment, we were talking about professional development for educators, how important that is so that they have the skills to bring new technology tools into the classroom, work with our students. But one of the things that I love about the ESD is how you involve the business community. Pete, can you tell me a little bit about how the ESD has worked with the business community and general community members to integrate support in for education? Yeah, sure. The ESD, I think the driving goal for us in education is supporting our school districts. When we take that a little bit further, a lot further down the road, we're trying to prepare our youth for the world of work, right? Whether they're going to go to school or 2-year school or 4-year school, or just jump right into industry or into a job. That's our goal when they leave 12th grade, is to prepare them for all of those things, to be a good worker, to be, all the things that we want from our kids as they grow up. The ESD, I think, is in a unique opportunity to help bridge that gap, and we see an important stepping stone for internships and apprenticeships and involving our local businesses around the 4 counties in getting these youth experience and exposure to what the world of work looks like. Most kids only know what their dad does or what their mom does, right? And that's the job that they see or an uncle does. And so we want to open up their eyes to those experiences, to be able to see that there are a ton of different jobs in agriculture or in medicine or at our large employers like the PUD, that they might not see if they're just in a classroom. And I think that's especially critical in rural communities because we have such a geographic, we're just so spread out. And you talk about small communities that might only have a couple thousand people. You're right, they're only going to see their neighbors and a couple different career opportunities. But across the region as a whole, it's so dynamic.
Yes.
There's so much opportunity, and with transportation and all those other things being an issue, it makes sense our youth wouldn't know without the support of organizations like the ESD to bring exposure opportunities. Yeah, another opportunity that we have is we just created a cybersecurity summit. And it's really just building this community between education and the business world and our business partners on enhancing and exploring that pipeline
of a cybersecurity degree for our kids and the importance of cybersecurity. Super big word that we talk about and read all the time, but it's a very broad area, and there's a definite need in our businesses and community for cybersecurity knowledge and skills and degrees. And so we've started this community of cybersecurity folks that are kicked off in February, and then we're meeting monthly to continue the conversation. And one of our goals at the ESD is to create a pipeline where a student can graduate from high school and get a degree or a certification in cybersecurity, and then get a job in the Valley providing IT service.
I think it's really exciting that you've started this, started convening people around cybersecurity, because like you said, it affects everything. Affects everything we do, even in our personal individual lives. You know, I noticed on Facebook last week, I was getting friend requests from people who already have accounts, people who are duplicating and hacking private information. So we all see it all the time, or those phishing emails that you get, and they're trying to spam your information. Before we talk about future-proofing classrooms, one more note on the business community. I've loved every year the STEM Summit. That's an incredible program that the ESD puts together. Ping to either of you, can you share a little bit about the STEM Summit? Because that's going to be this summer, once again, with business and educators.
Yeah, the STEM Summit, this will be our 6th annual. We do it in August. It's a week-long training. It's a great time for teachers to get that professional development in 1 week, concentrated effort around everything STEM, which is almost every single thing in the classroom that we're teaching. We have in attendance, we have over 500 teachers come. It's a week long of keynote speakers. Our business community is invited to participate, teach classes, and get our teachers ready to kick off the new school year. So we're looking forward to another summer at the Convention Center, week of training in mid-August. Yeah.
So if you're a business, part of the business community watching today, know that the ESD it's not just about pulling our educators together. You're just really dynamic in the community. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit here. I know we wanted to talk about today future-proofing classrooms and 21st century skills. What does that mean?
It's a tricky one, right? Because how do you future-proof anything?
Right.
But I like all this discussion about businesses and jobs and workforce, and we used to say college ready for our students, and we've shifted that to college and career ready. And what I like to tell teachers and community members is that the scary reality is that our students are going to be going through school, and by the time they graduate, they'll be taking jobs that don't actually exist yet, right? That's how fast our world changes. But the good news is there's some studies that have been put out about what colleges and employers are looking for. And they're not things like content knowledge so much. They're things like critical thinking and collaboration and teamwork and initiative and perseverance. And those things actually haven't changed over the last 30, 35 years. And so we used to call these 21st century skills, but we're 22 years into the 21st century. And so we've been doing this stuff for a while. And my job really lies in the world of taking tools that where we can harness these skills and put them into action in the classroom. Things like Flipgrid, which is a video-based platform that gets kids talking with each other and connecting with other students around the world, and it's completely and totally free. Or using a tool like Screencastify, which a lot of teachers became very familiar with over the last couple of years, because it allows you to very easily record your screen, record your webcam, and then deliver information to people, and then use that to create authentic products. And so future-proofing your classroom really revolves around those 21st century skills, or I've just started calling them future-ready skills, so that we can prepare our students to be flexible and adaptable and get out into the world and be creators and not consumers, to have a powerful voice and communicate with communities and know that they can access the web to connect with anybody across the world at any given time.
Earlier we talked a little bit about how parents worry about screen time. And this is kind of that flip on it of how do you use technology to actually gain soft skills is what I'm hearing. How you work with people, how you communicate, how you share and create. And I don't think that's highlighted a lot. I think you're going back to your earlier statements. I think you see a lot of articles of parents being worried on device or that people get isolated, but from what I'm hearing, it's very much not that way.
The idea is connection.
Yeah.
And I love that there's all this work on cybersecurity, because that giving students these tools, we need to teach them how to use them safely and appropriately. And so absolutely part of that conversation is, how do you have a voice, but how do you use it responsibly? How do you vet information that's coming to you? How are you a safe global citizen? Which is not something that our teachers are used to teaching their students, because it's a very, very new world.
What does this look like for our English language learners and youth that might be coming into the classroom learning English as a second language?
Oh, I love that question, because that we mentioned tech as the great equalizer. And so there's so many tools out there that are free that can be used for translation or to meet students where they're at in the learning process. And so there's actually, with the way that my job was created, there's one of me in all of the 9 ES, not me specifically, right? That'd be very scary, but
yes.
Technology cloning, we're there, right? But there's a tech coach in every ESD. And so part of that funding, there's grants available. And so there's a lot of money to be had, things that are just coming out, where teachers and school districts can apply for technology and services and training and support that will bring in all of these tools that we've talked about: broadband connection, support for English language learners, support for students on all ends of the learning spectrum. So there's research to be had, and there's resources to be had. And so when Pete was talking about earlier that the ESD website is the best way to get a hold of us, absolutely. So when you're thinking about, like, how do I do more for my students? How do I equip them to be global future-ready citizens? The ESD is really in a good place to support districts as they do that.
And as you mentioned, the ESD is really collaborative with other ESDs to bring best practices and learnings into the community, including, I see here a note about the EdTech Regional Educator Network. So it's not just the resources you have, but you're helping connect out broadly.
Yeah, and that has been the coolest part about this job, is connecting with other people around the state. There was some of this work that was happening before I came on board, and this has been a continuation of that work. And so there's been some really great work that's been done, just bringing not just people from the districts in our ESD, but from across the entire state, and people being able to learn from each other.
Well, thank you for what both of you are doing to help impact education. I know it's kind of corny, but it's true. Like, the youth are our future, right? And you're both making a huge impact inside of education to support those pathways. Before we have to wrap up, any projects you're working on, anything we didn't catch today? So many things, I'm sure. So
some of my favorite, the stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis just was supporting individual districts. I love getting out on campus. I'm working on a couple of different professional developments for teachers, and really just trying to mirror the ways that we are teaching in our classrooms with the way that we're training teachers. And that's just been a lot of fun for me, and I'm looking forward to growing that work.
Awesome. Yeah, I see a note here, March 15th, you've got Educational Technology Connections to Educator Mental Health and Wellbeing, a self-care series. And in May,
Since 1999, NCW Tech Alliance has served as our regional hub for technology innovation. As a 501c3, their nonprofit mission is to connect people and technology resources to create a thriving community. You can network with the team and guests from today's show by visiting them at www.ncwtech.org.